Okay, so yesterday we put the head on, and now we're ready to put on the valve cover. So just want to go over a quick thing, a few little tips about the timing on these machines. So when we put the timing chain on, we still got to settle that in place. We have this timing gear, which has to be settled in here and put on the cam itself. And this is where your pull cord would be. Inside here is your magneto, and right here is your viewing port. Okay, so a 17 millimeter wrench will take this off. You open this up, okay, lay that to one side, and if you view inside there, if you view inside down this hole, down the viewing port, and I'm using a 14 millimeter socket on my crank down there, and as this comes up you'll see a little stroke with the letter T written beside it. It's actually printed on the side of the large magnet for the magneto that you put on. And on the side of the engine right here you'll see a little, it looks like an arrow or a little it's just a mark here on the engine. It's actually molded into the casing here, and you'll see a straight line on that magneto down there, on the magnet itself, and it should line up straight across here. Now when those two are lined up, the piston head that we were looking at before is right at the top, so it's called top dead center. It's just as the piston comes up, takes that momentary stop before it starts heading back down again. It's at the very top of the combustion chamber. So that's, everything gets timed from that position. Okay, so, and then the chain, which is connected to the crank down here, which is turned by the piston in the engine, is connected to that. We're going to settle this onto that cam gear there in a second and put it on this cam right here. Okay. As the engine turns, then this is the intake valve. If you were able to look up inside here, you see that little valve up here in the head that has to be pushed down, and that allows fuel and air, oxygen, which is mixed at the carburetor, to flow into the combustion chamber as the piston goes down to draw it in. And then as it comes up, that has to be closed to be able to cause the compression without opening the exhaust valve. And then she fires and goes down again, and then as she comes up, then this valve has to be opened up to let the exhaust gases out through here, and then on and back to your muffler. So I'm going to see if you can see this now. They're very hard to see sometimes unless they're out, but as I bring this up a little bit further, I think you'll be able to see this. Hopefully the camera will pick this up. You can see the straight line in there, and sometimes it's a little hard to get it settled right in where it needs to be. She has a tendency on our magnets to want to settle in one place or another, so it becomes very hard to do. But there looks pretty good to me, and you want it around that area. That's where it has to be. So when I go at it, I'll settle it there, and it has to be straight across here with that stroke. Okay, if you were to look on your magneto in here on this big magnet, the permanent magnet goes under, there is a little key in the crankshaft that has a little tiny metal key in there that keeps the two together, and that has to fit in over it. Well, that key is also exactly in this top dead center position. So if you happen to have your side cover off, and it's hard to look in here, you can actually see top dead center as well from lining up that key with that mark as well. All right, now on this cam gear, okay, you can see two lines, and it's hard for me to do it with one hand, so I'm holding the camera with the other one, but you'll see two lines on the edge right here and right here. So if you look at that, you can see that. Well, that tells you that there, those two lines right there, they have to be lined up, and you got to do this by eye. This is the mating surface here, so those two should be lined up directly across like this. So the two lines should be even with this surface. And when you got your top dead center set here, and you got those two lines set across here, then that's going to be, she's on timing. Now there's one other thing you got to look at as well, okay? And that is, as this spins, you can see these two lobes come up and they activate the rocker arms. Like the hit of rocker arms are lined up for here. The rocker arms actually push up and down here, and that's what pushes this valve down, or this valve down, depending on the timing. And if you notice that for half the cycle, they're actually up here activating the rocker arms. And then for the other half of the cycle, they're down here well away from the rocker arms, okay? This is the position you want to be in when you're setting the timing. This is called a compression stroke. You'd want to be on what's called the exhaust stroke for doing your timing, simply because these lobes are so close to the rocker arms, it could affect where you are. So you always want to set the machine on its intake or on its compression stroke. And that, when it's on a compression stroke, these lobes are down this way, well out of the way, so that it doesn't affect, these rocker arms won't be affected by those two lobes. They're down out of the way. So this is on the compression stroke. And so when they say to you, you need to do your timing on your compression stroke, that's what it means. So that there's no strain on the timing chain. Everything is at its most relaxed position, let's say. These are up, out of the way, and both valves are closed. So you should set your timing mark on here. Make sure she's in the compression stroke. Now, because everything is symmetrical, it's very hard, because even at the, when she's on her exhaust stroke, when these two lobes are around this position, it's going to be, they might not feel any strain there, because at this point coming up here, she's going to be pretty close to top dead center as well, because as you come up, any of these lobes, as they come up, you're getting close to top dead center. So you it'd be hard to tell. So if you look on this cam gear, besides the two strokes that you see on the very top by that pin, there's also another mark. And that mark, because if you can see those two strokes through the viewing port, which there's just a little plastic plug in here which sits in here, and you'll be able to look in here and you'll be able to see that from the outside, okay? If you shine a flashlight in there, you should also be able to see that stroke, that little mark on the edge of the cam lobe as well, and that'll let you know that she's on the compression stroke. Okay, if she's the other way around and you can't see it, or you see it's on the bottom, you need to spin it around. You need to spin your engine around and get it up to the top. So as we go to do the timing here, hopefully I'll remember to show you that again with everything together. So again, if you look carefully, you see those two lines on either side. Right now at the, what would be your 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions, and at the 12 noon position, you see that little mark on the cam lobe. That should be up in the up position, the 12 o'clock position here, when you go to do your timing as well. So I'm going to put the cam gear on here and get this together and finish her up on our timing.